Hi, Pisces. Okay, so great, good. The Tower, Page of Swords. Okay, let me put these where you can see them for now. So eclipses, lunar eclipse in Aquarius, solar eclipse in Leo, Mercury retrograde in Virgo. This is all the same for all the signs, which, going through it so we can kind of like piece out what's going to be going on. Mercury retrograde in Virgo, and then the sun goes into Virgo at the end of the month. So, at least for the beginning of the month, there's a lot of like weekly astrology stuff, but also monthly astrology stuff that's talking about how easy it's going to be for you guys. I don't know why they're saying that. I've been trying to kind of figure it out. How can a lunar eclipse in your 12th house of the subconscious be easy? I would think it would be like this. I would think it would shine, if like, lunar eclipse is the uber, super full moon, then how could this super full moon not be uncomfortable? Full moons can be uncomfortable anyway, albeit a sense of great power, but aren't they uncomfortable for you, Pisces? Like, don't you find yourself staying awake, not being able to sleep, thinking too much, perhaps manifesting what you don't want just because you are awake and irritated and, thinking about something, and then boom, like a few days later, you're like, oh my God. King of Swords. So Page of Swords, King of Swords. Okay. Lots of air energy. Also, we are talking about the lunar eclipse in Aquarius. So if you're dealing with an Aquarius, and as a Pisces, you're going to be going through this lunar eclipse where Aquarius is in your 12th house, you're already dealing with someone who unnervingly gets you because their sign is your 12th house. Unnervingly, it's someone who gets you perhaps more than you get yourself, because the thing about Pisceans is the lack of boundaries, and the thing about Aquarians is that in some ways they have too many boundaries. So that mix can be beneficial for them in terms of being able to manipulate you, and not necessarily all that great for you. So let's see. That's not what I'm saying is going on at all. I'm just pointing out something that I've seen happen before. And because we are talking about a lunar eclipse in a sign that is a lot different from you, like I often say, you are a reaction to the sign before you. So as a reaction to Aquarius, you don't have boundaries. You are this free, loving, open, capable of great understanding, but also great compassion, capable of great healing, energy. Bottom of the deck so far is the Two of Swords. We'll talk about that. And then the cards that kind of like slipped under, did you see that, in my hand are the Nine of Cups, the Four of Pentacles, the Devil, and the Two of Cups. So I'm going to shuffle for some more cards, get some outcome cards, and then I'll just, you're already like, you can basically already see what's going on, which is kind of cool. I may just pull the camera back a little more so you can still see me and still see the cards, but let's see. So the Tower, Page of Swords, King of Swords, Nine of Cups, Four of Pentacles, the Devil, and the Two of Cups. So we have an outcome card, but I just want to pull one more, just to kind of clarify. And then we'll take a look at it, like all together. So I do feel already that there's a lot of there's a lot that's going to make you feel upended. There's a lot that's going to make you feel like this is hitting you in the depths of your soul, in places that you don't really feel right now, particularly like cleaning out more. Like, it's like, I can almost like hear you guys being like, but we're already doing this. We're already cleaning out. We're already cutting people off. We're already doing that. I get it. But this isn't about cutting people off. This Tower card isn't about cutting people off. This is about clearing out your own parts of yourself that need to be cut out, clearing out your own gunk. And there's certain, the analogy that comes to mind is that most people don't breathe very deeply. And so they always have this kind of shallow reserve of breath that's like 30% of their lung capacity, where the air is just really stale because it's not ever getting, exhaled out, and new air doesn't have a place to come in. So sometimes when you make someone take a really deep breath, it can be emotional for them. It can make them cry. It can make them like tear up. If they keep breathing deeply, there is something called holotropic breathing, actually, which is really, really interesting. It's a form of therapy, but it's also a form of regression, all just using the breath. But when you get someone breathing really deeply, inevitably places in their muscles will start to, crackle, and knots of lactic acid that are just balled up emotion, resentment, whatever has been living there in certain areas of the body will start to kind of, sizzle and start to dissolve, because the bloodstream is being flooded with so much oxygen, and there isn't this reserve in there that the body kind of just gets away with not being as oxygenated as it should be, right? And so you would think you're breathing really deeply, yay, you're getting rid of that, little bit of air that's left, and you're getting to replace it, and how wonderful. But then you start to feel, the effects in your body. Inevitably, whenever I do this in my yoga practice with people, they'll start to either roll their shoulders or, roll their neck or something, because they can feel where the oxygen is going. The supercharged oxygenated blood is now going to different places in their muscles, and those muscles now want to move, and, they want to stretch because they want to get rid of these knots of emotion. That process, inevitably, I can't think of a single person that I've done that with for the first time when I've introduced them to this very simple, it's just breathing. But in a lot of ways, it is pranayama breathing. It is yogic breathing. But not one single person that I've introduced that to has been able to contain themselves, regardless of, male, female, how old they were, what their like financial background or societal background. Like everyone bursts into tears, because there's so much relief in getting out the stale, getting out that which you don't even know you're allowed to replace. When you tell people, you're not using that reserve of breath in your lungs, they're like, what? I thought I took deep breaths, but there's a difference between taking, that's not a deep breath, like a deep breath is counting all the way to like 8 or 9 or 10 and inhaling until you can't inhale anymore, and then taking an even more, gulp of air in, so you feel like your lungs are like, that's a deep breath. When people realize that they have the permission to let go of that which they didn't even know they were hanging on to. Oh, you didn't think I was going to come back around? When you do that, what that person experiences is such an overwhelming sense of relief. But that relief is always tinged with this abstract sort of sadness for the things that are leaving. Not that you want to hold on to them, not that you want that pain or that knot in your shoulder, or no, you're happy and relieved that it's going. You're happy and relieved that stale air is being, worked out of your lungs. And yet there is this almost nostalgic kind of, it's hard for us, but especially Pisces, to, let go. It's hard. It's hard for everyone. You know, I have a really, really amazing Taurus friend who's a laughing yoga instructor. His name is Rishi Singh. You can find him through my Instagram. I'll put up a post of his on Instagram and you can find him that way. He's a laughing yoga instructor and he really, really, really helped me. He did like an energetic reading for me when I was in San Francisco last year, and in true Taurus fashion, it took about, 3-4 months to really like set in and work, but it has worked. And the way he opened his healing with me is that he said, what I've realized is that everything in life is, this is mine and then I'll let it go. And then this is mine and then I let it go. And that was, he opened it that way with me because that was what I was suffering with. And when I expressed this sort of like disdain, like, God, it's how original, I can't let go of something. And he said, well, no, that's you, that's me, that's everybody in every aspect of our life. That's our cells. Even our cells are constantly deciding what to retain and what to let go. Our skin is deciding, from the smallest atomic structure that we are to the largest, there's always this give and take going on. And so Pisces of all know this because you are so fluid, and yet there is that ache, that pain of not wanting things to get this out of hand, to lose so much. I don't want to lose this much. I don't know if I can lose this much. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know. And it's really interesting because if we look at the rest of these cards, right? Hold on, let me show you. If we look at these cards, like, yes, there's going to be a lot of communication. Yes, there's going to be a dominant sort of air energy that's really exerting control and pressure on you. And yet in the midst of this, somehow you are very content. I think after the eclipse and after this kind of breaking open and getting you to breathe more deeply and getting past the stale air and getting the knots worked out and getting through the grief of losing those feelings that you had been attached to, after that starts a kind of wave of momentum that has to do with communicating, but it also has to do with this sort of freeness that happens after you get put through the ringer, right? And then this is also two people who are very much vying for your affection, and there's a huge difference between them in terms of where they are in their life. One of them seems a lot better of a choice for you, but honestly, after what's going on at the beginning of the month, I wouldn't make any real commitments in August. The other reason I wouldn't make any commitments is because you have this Four of Pentacles, Mercury retrograde in Virgo energy, which is just like, sit still, stop, let's just be. And this is also, the Capricorn earth energy is also very stop. Of course, Capricorns like to go in certain areas of their life, but the overall heaviness of this is not lost on me. Especially when, in comparison, you've got two cards here of emotional fulfillment, but then you've got this card of indecision. I think, Pisces, what this looks like to me is, like I said, two fish swimming in opposite directions. I think the planets and everything going on is pulling you one way. I'm so sorry. And so there's all this stuff going on planetary-wise that's kind of making you feel stationary and making you inward. And then there is your natural buoyancy and what you feel like doing in your life and how you feel about yourself, right? So you are at odds because sure, you do want to and need to brood and you need to figure this out and you need to take advantage of the retrograde for sure. you need to also figure out what's going on with this person. If this Capricorn is someone that you feel really stuck to and you can't seem to get out of your spiral with, I get it. You know, you're kind of trying to decide between what seems like either in an abstract form or a very specific form, a dead-end situation, and you're trying to reason your way somehow into how you should be here and how you deserve this. But I don't understand why you feel like you need to reason yourself into it. I don't understand why that's the mode you're picking to go with, or that's, you know, what you've decided is your game plan. Since when do you need to rationalize things, Pisces? Is it because you're afraid that your feelings have been leading you astray and so you don't want to trust them now? Is that what it is? Because the Two of Cups is a very powerful card, and yet I sense an enormous amount of hesitation. I feel like some pretty harsh things have happened where you were pretty open, and instead you were greeted with energies that made you feel like, okay, I'm content in certain areas of my life for sure. You know, in terms of work, in terms of how I see myself, in terms of how people see me, I'm doing pretty good. But, you know, for one, I'm not making as much money as I should be. Two, I think you might be working with someone you really, really, really dislike as well. But also, even if you are feeling content with work, you're still starting to feel that glass ceiling. You're still starting to feel like, I'm content for now, but isn't that a bit scary? You know, shouldn't I still be ambitious? Shouldn't I still have a ways to be able to climb if I wanted to? And then the Two of Cups comes in. So yes, a very powerful card, but if you look at it in the context of everything else that's going on, there's all these polar opposites that are pulling on you. And then in the midst of all this, it's like, okay, well, let's also look at your relationship. Okay, well, let's also look at, you know, the relationship. It's this, again, is this Mercury retrograde energy that's coming in and saying, I want you to look at how you communicate with people who you love. I want you to look at how you communicate with people who don't treat you well. And I want you to look at how you communicate with people that you're in love with. And just maybe reevaluate the situation during the retrograde season, just to figure out if, you know, is it you? Are you nuts? Or is it really happening the way you think it's happening? This retrograde in Virgo gives you the ability to see past your own bias and be like, oh no, you know, this is what's really happening. Whatever it's in regards to. This card flipped over. Nine of Pentacles. So I'm always happy to see the Nine of Pentacles just because it's a card of prosperity and being like a boss, you know. Also someone who has enormous faith in her value as a person and, you know, is really a woman of leisure, but you get the sense that she's quite proud of that money that she's got. There's no indication here that she's worked for it, but she's proud of it in a way where she feels that she's deserving of it. Let's say it like that. So, I think, Pisces, this month you're going to learn, how to wield these swords. You're going to learn how to push things out of your life even more than you already have. You've pushed a lot of things out of your life and you've been super positive about it and getting it done and moving forward, but there are still things to be done and people to be X'd out. And I think you know very much so who those people are, but they have some sort of a hold on you. And if that's, you know, if this and this is the same person, or if this and this is the same person, then I can feel your fear. You know, the fear of like kind of getting stuck in a situation with someone that you know is not necessarily a good person, right? And you're like, I don't know, like the chemistry is there or whatever, that I like this, but like I know something's off. And instead what the cards are saying is, focus less here, and even, focus even less on the planetary alignments and focus on cultivating this new relationship that's going to come into your life and this newfound freedom that's going to come into your life. I think the more creative you get about how you're feeling right now, the more money you'll be able to make off of it. Right? The way I have it written down in my notes is, we are all healing through you. And this is when you get to the end of the healing. But in the meantime, it's not so bad. I mean, aside from this initial first week and a half of August where you're definitely going to feel this, after that, things do get easier. Sure, you have some people to contend with that aren't necessarily the most friendly, and this one's friendly, but this one isn't the most friendly, and they both have some sort of an agenda with you, right? But that doesn't affect your sense of calm and just your overall contentment and happiness. And then comes the retrograde, kind of shaking everything up. And also, I think here this applies to those of you who are having some sort of issue with money, like you feel like you need to really hang on to your money really tight. And from what I can tell, it's in your head. It's not real. I think you stress about work and money when you're actually stressed about other stuff, and you displace it. Right? Okay. So now let me tell you a little story that I think you guys will like about what we've just been talking about. Because I was saying, let all of us heal through you. So what do I mean? Let's see if I can have you see the cards still at the same time. Somehow, no. Okay, well, let's just go with it. So what do I mean? Let us all heal through you. I will relate this story to you in a way where it actually involves a Pisces, and that's really cool. So about 6 years ago, I met, at the time he was 20, he was 19, he had just turned 20, a young man named William, who lives on a boat in Christiania, or lived on a boat in Christiania, and was a poet. And was just into, studying all sorts of esoteric stuff. I met him in Denmark. And he's half Japanese and half Danish. And just super spiritual, and a Pisces. Super spiritual, a poet, into researching all this esoteric stuff, a musician, and a performer who ended up going to some sort of a circus or acrobatic school and theater school in Paris and in Barcelona. So over the years, we kept in touch, and because, he had this cool boat and had all this musical equipment on the boat and would just kind of be out there, doing his dope, Zen music thing, whenever I would be in Copenhagen, we would get together and just hang out and just kind of, trade ideas back and forth. And that became one of my dearest, creative exchanges that I have with people, as I'm traveling and I'm going places around the world. So this past time when I was flying from Denmark to New York, I stopped in Copenhagen. I had a connecting flight and I had 5 hours. So, I rode into the city, saw William. We, had some coffee, we had some tea, we smoked a little, just hung out. And we were talking about, he was telling me about this Sufi system of astrology, which is interesting, right? Because I have actual Sufi ties. I'm a Muslim. You would think I would know these things, but I had no idea what he was talking about. So apparently there's this Sufi system of astrology that has to do with Sufism is all about this symbol of the heart with the wings. So it has to do with each sign kind of being the center, and then wings on that sign kind of make it a cusp. So you can have wings going in this direction or wings going in that direction. And that further fills out the picture in terms of personality and fate and all of that for you. So it is a system of astrology, but it seems, from what I've gathered so far, to be more nuanced in a way that perhaps astrology is not. I'm sure because astrology itself is such a vast, subject, that it's just as nuanced, but this seems to be done in a different way. It seems to be done from more of like an energetic point of view. Anyway, so he was telling me about this, and he was saying, wouldn't it be really cool to be able to introduce people to this new system of astrology, but not do it the way you do it, which is, you sit down and kind of like an air sign, rational air sign, you go, okay, you guys, this is what is going on. So even something clairvoyant like this can be, a bit rational, right? Like, I'm also talking about science. I'm also talking about computers. So it's not just this like purely, ritualistic, metaphysical experience. There's other things added to it. So he was saying, instead of introducing people to this new system of astrology by doing it your rational, analytical, Gemini way, why not do it in theater? Why not do it with theater? And that makes sense because he has this theater background. I was like, okay, well, what do you mean? Explain. And he was saying, doing he's really good at impromptu and live performances and stage, and, that's where he really shines. And so he was thinking kind of impromptu skits that really encapsulate some trait about that particular sign, and then doing the next and then doing the next. And so using, farce and drama to explain something further to you about yourself. Now, here's where I see the merit in that, and here's why I tell the story, because it really does have to do with your healing and how there's all these people in this reading that you kind of need to give things to, and how I said, let us all heal through you, right? We need you guys to process the energy of the whole year or the energy of whatever whole transit, and then cleanse us of all of it by letting it go for all of us, and so Aries can start again, right? So when I say heal for all of us, we need you to heal so we can heal. This idea that I'm going to explain to you now just perfectly encapsulates what I mean. So he said, shouldn't we do these skits? Wouldn't that be really cool if it was done in that form and people could have another way of understanding? Because people don't, as you and I know from previous Pisces videos, as I'm sure, Aquarians are thinking right now, watching this, saying, hey, it's supposed to be us next. It can be very difficult to tell someone something about themselves that they don't want to hear. And it can also be very difficult to hear something about yourself that you don't necessarily, like, you may know that you're kind of like that, but that doesn't mean you want to know, right? This is why Oscar Wilde said, if you want to tell people the truth, make them laugh or they'll kill you, right? So his point is, because there is this natural hesitancy to wanting too clean of, not wanting a too clean of a mirror held up in front of you, when you add drama or humor or hubris, any sort of emotion and playing and, farce to that, it takes the edge off it. It makes it slightly easier to stomach. Right? You can kind of laugh at yourself a little and go, oh, well, yeah, okay, I can be like that a little bit. Just a little bit of like a wink of like, come on, you're not perfect. You do this a little bit. And so as he's explaining this to me, I'm just standing there doing this annoying thing I do to my friends, which like all of them are annoyed by it. Where I'll just stand there with a knowing smile on my face going, and like halfway through whatever, they're like, just, what is it? Just tell me, you're so annoying. Like what? You're so annoying, because they think they're having this great idea. And instead of me reacting the way I should, which is like, oh my God, that's a great idea, I'm just standing there going, and they're like, you're so legit, you're so annoying. So the reason I was so smug is because what he's talking about and what I'm, going to tell you, it's absolutely valid. Theater and healing are very linked, okay? So in ancient Greece, theaters and hospitals were in the same building. They were in the same compound. Theaters and hospitals were the same thing. Why? Because the Greeks understood that, first of all, most illnesses that manifest in the body have some sort of either psychosomatic, energetic, psychological beginning. Does it mean that if you trace back their pathology that you could be like, this sickness was exactly because they got depressed at that? No, that's not what I mean. But what they realized was that the emotional component of any person, whether the emotions have been tarnished by just being sick or the emotions were the reasons they became sick, regardless of how it ends up happening, you're dealing with someone who is now ill, and also their soul is suffering from it. Their soul is also needing a healing. Well, you can't heal souls with medicine, right? You can with compassion, and I'm sure they received a great deal of compassion from, the workers who took care of them. But the way that you really purify the soul of whatever it's hanging on to or whatever it's having a hard time letting go of is this process of catharsis. So what's catharsis? So having a cathartic experience is basically watching something unfold in a movie, in a play, something, and being able to identify so closely with what's happening that it taps into your unprocessed emotions about that thing and makes you in that instant process them and release them. And it is super healthy, and it can be super painful and moving, and yet leaves you feeling, relieved and free and lighter. So this process of catharsis, right? The different emotions that you can feel as you work through a cathartic experience. This was, excuse me, for the ancient Greeks, just as important as giving you medicine and changing your bandages, so much so that the place where that was done had to be housed in the same building as sick people. So am I saying that everyone that listens to astrology is sick? Not at all. I am saying that we're always looking for some comfort and for some answers. And what this gentle, beautiful, creative Pisces had hit on intuitively was that people needed drama in their life to help them heal. Now, of course, I had to make the requisite joke, of course a Pisces thinks that the world needs drama to help it heal because y'all are so extra. Of course I had to, like, cheap shot, I know, but I had to. But isn't it amazing to think about it that way? To think of yourself not as a burden because you have all these feelings, but as someone who removes the burden of others by exercising this within yourself. Does that make sense? By being the one who cries it out, who processes it, who feels for the whole world, who feels things that are happening, on the other side of the world personally as if it was happening to someone you know. That person who does all that and is a filter for all of that is the one that makes it all, into bite-sized pieces so the rest of us can handle it. So the rest of us can digest it. So Aries can take it and make fuel out of it and go, and the cycle can start again. But you guys are the ones who are left with the gunk and the dirt and the mud and the gross and like, okay, here, do something with this, right? And now you have a chance to be that drama, be that thing that brings healing to everyone around you by just letting yourself feel and letting yourself be big and letting yourself bring about those cathartic moments for other people around you. And perhaps, even for yourself. Even for yourself, I think that you're going to find yourself this month in situations where you really just want to just get rid of it. I just feel like you just want to get rid of everything. And I think that that's when the people in your life are going to be like, wait. Okay, hold on. I really, you know, you heal me, and I really actually need you. Don't be done. Don't be done. You know, because when you've done the work from last month of getting really clear and moving all these things out of your way, then it becomes really obvious when someone is not doing you right to be like, you know what? I'm already in like block and delete mode. So cool. Are you sure you want to do this right now? You know, that energy, once Pisces gets into that energy, you guys get what you want because you're not waiting on anybody anymore. The only time Pisces trips up is when they're waiting on somebody else and not just swimming in the direction they need to go, you know? So I think the Tower being the first card out kind of says it all. It's eclipses, it's retrogrades, it's a lot. I don't understand why people are telling you that it's going to be easy. It's not easy right now. It's going to be frustrating. You're going to want to be fast when it's slow. You're going to want to be slow when it's fast. You're going to want it to speak to you nicely, and it's going to speak to you really harshly. You know, you're like, I'm here for love, and the other part of you is like, what about your value as a person? Like, there's so much conflicting, you know, fish swimming in two directions stuff going on. And as weird as this sounds, I think I would let it happen. I think I would let this play out, knowing that the Tower situation needed to happen, knowing that you do need to go more internal, knowing that you do need to make something creative out of everything you've gone through so we can all have that cathartic experience. I think this is just kind of letting you know what's going to happen, but it's also saying, you know, this is a pretty winding road, but we've figured out the stops along the way and we know where we're going to be stopping, so just take it easy. You know, it's I was just looking at my notes to make sure I didn't forget anything. You really do stand to make some good choices once this lunar eclipse energy comes to an end. By the time you get to the solar eclipse, I really do feel like you're going to have enough confidence to really get what you want. I wouldn't push it at the beginning of the month. Just take it super easy. Let things dissolve naturally around you if they have to. But don't like strike out with that Aquarius energy. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not for you. So, okay? Good. So in the extended, we're going to pull cards for the Page of Swords, the King of Swords, and for the Two of Cups to figure out what's going on there. Maybe even the Devil. And then I'll go through the chart with you and let you know where, right, the transits are and what's going on. And you will be able to find that video in the description below. You cannot access it from a mobile device. You have to do it from a desktop. And if your country doesn't show up, just leave us a comment below and we'll fix it. All right, so this was your August reading, Pisces. It was pretty, like, subtle and intense. Like, I can tell, like, I'm really, really, really drained. Like, I almost yawned just now. I'm really, really drained. But the indecision is draining. Focus, but not with trying to control and, oh, I don't want to go in two different directions. That's not what I mean. Focus on the thing in between the two fish. Focus on the thing in between that the fish swimming in different directions are trying to distract you from. Find that thing, whatever it is for you. All right. Okay, Pisces. So I'll switch over to the extended now, and I'll see you there. And I'll see you in September. Yay!